This and every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. The program is made possible by St. Barnabas. For over 3 years now, the show has been dedicated to shining light on the great things going on right here in your neighborhood and the people that are making it happen. This Thursday, enjoy conversation and insight from an intriguing lineup of guests who are creating excitement and having an impact right here in Beaver County. Your friends and neighbors at St. Barnabas are pleased to support the best of Beaver County. The radio broadcast will also be replayed each week from 11:30 to noon on Sundays on Beaver County Radio. Archived Best of Beaver County videos can be viewed on the WBVP WMBA Facebook page. It's your chance to encounter the best of Beaver County with host Mike Romai this Thursday starting at 11. For more information, visit beavercountyradio.com. You're driving in the fast lane with Frank Sparks on 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. You can also stream live on beavercountyradio.com.
And it is currently sitting at 8:35 a.m. Don't forget, tonight we do have high school football for you as Avonworth will be traveling to Beaver. Round 2. Can Beaver beat Avonworth a second time? This time it's worth a trip to the semifinals if they can beat them. We'll have coverage with Mangino and Mike Azadian starting at 6:30 tonight. 7 o'clock will be kickoff of that game. Tank Latham will have the Lisa Latham team of eXp Realty, and he'll have the sideline reports for that as well. So don't forget to tune in for that. Coming up at 9 o'clock this morning, Larry Kelly will be here from LGKG, but joining me now is former Beaver County Commissioner Dennis Nichols. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Frank. Good morning to you and your listeners.
How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Beautiful
Awesome.
day out there.
So what you been up to since we haven't seen you for a couple years? What you been up to?
I've stayed involved with nonprofit organizations. I
Okay.
do volunteer work for several nonprofit organizations. Most recently, I've become involved with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which has come into Beaver County this summer, and it's a great opportunity for young people to get free books. Any young person in the county from birth through age 4 can get a free book through the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program. And if people are interested in knowing more about that, they can just go to imaginationlibrary.com, and all the information's on there. Folks can either sign up a child to receive free books, or they can, if they would like to donate to the organization. That would be great. It costs only $26.40 to sponsor a child for an entire year. They get a book every month, and that's age appropriate, and those go on, as I said, through age 4. So that's a wonderful program. Mm-hmm. Also, I've been involved with the Beaver County Foundation, which has been in existence for a number of years now, and it's involved with managing charitable giving for various funds in the county. Folks that like to leave a legacy, help other people. This is a way to do it, and the foundation manages the money, disperses the money. So if someone wants to establish a fund for whatever purpose for the benefit of Beaver County, can do that through the Beaver County Foundation. So I've been on the board there for a couple of years now. I've tried to stay more involved with education type organizations and things that benefit the county in general.
You've been a busy guy.
Well, it's nice to be involved.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, all right. So one of the reasons why I called you, because, like I said, I know that when it comes to elections, politics, you've been part of it, you've been there, and I was thinking, man, I know the perfect person to talk to when it was suggested to me to get somebody. So we'll start off first. So let's start off on the national level. So what was your impression of this current election and what happened on Tuesday?
It was an interesting election, I think, from a lot of different purposes, a lot of different reasons. I was very encouraged by the turnout, the fact that for Beaver County, we had about an 80% turnout of the registered voters, 117,000 voters approximately, registered voters in Beaver County, and the number was approximately 80% that turned out to vote. So that's always encouraging to see more people participating, expressing their point of view and voting. So that was very encouraging. From the results point of view, we're looking at an election that was highly contested, obviously. There's still quite a bit of division in the country, and I don't know if that's either good or bad. Hopefully more people would come together and for the common good of the country. The The election, I think, as it turned out, was more the result of basic issues. I think people were able to look at things like inflation, their cost of living, things that reflect possibly on crime, things of that nature, things that come really home to the individual. From my perspective, over the years, many times the average voter, they're living their daily lives, they're involved in taking care of the kids, going to work, church community activities, and maybe don't focus on political issues that much on a day-to-day basis. But when these kinds of issues come home to roost, so to speak, particularly with the cost of living, I think that was a major part of it. And the impact of the border and the number of immigrants that have come into the country, people are starting to see more of that in every part of the country. It's, as they say, every state's pretty much a border state anymore. So there are pretty strong feelings about that. So some of those kinds of issues, to me, are what really drove the participation and drove the interest in this election. The fact that Donald Trump ends up being only the second person in history of the United States to be elected president for 2 non-consecutive terms is pretty dramatic in itself when you think about it. Right. I believe only Grover Cleveland in the late 1800s was the only other person that's ever been able to do that. So for Trump to be able to come back and win the popular vote as well as the electoral college vote was pretty amazing in itself, quite frankly. But again, there are a lot of strong issues here.
Do you think some of those issues maybe the president, just because he's the president, gets the blame for them, and a lot of times maybe that's something that's out of his control? I mean, because I know inflation is kind of in his control, but yet we were coming out of a pandemic there. So the law of supply and demand happens a lot there, which means when the supply is down, the price is going to be higher. And do you think maybe that's something that played a part in all this?
Well, I think it probably played a part in it, but quite frankly, when governments spend more money than they take in taxes, right, you're going to have inflation. I mean, that was pretty well understood by most people that follow that type of thing. One of the classical definitions of inflation is when the money supply increases faster than productivity. And when the Biden administration started spending millions and millions of dollars that they didn't really have, the money supply was going to increase. It was inevitable that was going to happen. But the fact that it did happen, and to that extent, I think was one of probably the major factor in determining the outcome of the election. I think from a historic point of view, I mean, I think we should say that Kamala Harris being the first woman of color to be a candidate, right, was significant in itself. So there are a lot of things going on in the country right now, and I hope we can come back to being more unified in a way, at least getting along a little bit better and seeing elections that aren't so acrimonious in certain ways. And to me, with the amount of money that's being spent on these elections, I'm not sure that's such a good thing. I wish that we could find ways to control that a little bit better. That was tried in the past, but through political action committees and so forth. We all know just the millions and millions of dollars that get dumped into these campaigns, and there's still a possibility that individuals can influence the outcome maybe disproportionately because of that. So I mean, from a personal point of view, I'd like to see a little bit more control as far as the amount of spending that goes into these campaigns.
So we're visiting this morning with Dennis Nichols. He's former Beaver County Commissioner, and talking about the election. I'm 58 years old. All right, I've been voting in Beaver County since I was 18. I honestly can't remember a time that I've seen an 80% turnout. So I mean, that's historic in itself.
Oh, well, it is. We've been pretty close to that a couple of times, but that's certainly a high participation rate. And as I said, I think it's very, very encouraging that people get out there and express their point of view and be involved in the process. And I hope to see that kind of thing continue. I wish we'd see more of that on just local elections. We know sometimes there's maybe almost a quarter of that in local elections. But local elections are important too, and sometimes the effect on your daily life may be more important through your local elections than they are at the national level.
So moving at the national level still a little bit, the biggest race that's going on right now is obviously, the Associated Press is reporting that Dave McCormick has beat Bob Casey. Bob Casey says, there's still 100,000 ballots to count. I do not concede. What's the meaning? Do you think that that's okay for Bob Casey to continue to do that? Should he do that, or is it time for him just to concede at this point?
Personally, I don't have any problem in a candidate that's worked so hard and been in office a long time, or any candidate for that matter, until the count is really in. The notion of conceding is a sort of nice, polite, gentlemanly thing to do, or polite thing to do, so to speak. But at the same time, if the votes are not in and he wants to continue to pursue that, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I think the projections were coming about because of the vote spread as it stands right now, and I believe it was Cambria County, which is pretty heavy as far as Republican registration, is the one where a lot of the votes are remaining. So I think that's where the projection came in. But as far as conceding early or that sort of thing, I certainly wouldn't hold it against any candidate who's worked so hard and they spend a lot of money and they have a lot of people trying to win those elections. So until the votes are in, I don't see anything particularly wrong with that.
I was actually shocked that they called it because it's only 35,000 votes apart right now. So that was kind of,
right.
I was talking to my mom last night. Yesterday afternoon, I was driving home, and she told me that they announced McCormick as the winner. I said, how? It's only 35,000 votes difference. There's no way. And it was even less than that at that point. So it kind of shocked me that they did call that race at this point. What do you think that means for the United States of America, the fact that we're more than likely going to have an entire GOP legislature at this point?
Well, it certainly would have a major impact. I hadn't seen the latest information about the House of Representatives. They were still counting votes, I think, in some of those.
Yeah.
Do you have the latest on that? I looked this morning and it still couldn't see whether the House had been decided yet.
It's still not decided. Hold on up. I'll pull the newest numbers up right now. So right now it's 211 to 199 is what the seats are right now.
I think it's 218 to control the House. Well, if the Republicans would be in a position to control both houses, that would have certainly a significant impact on the way things would move forward as far as new legislation is concerned. With having the presidency and the House and the Senate, they would be able to accomplish a lot more, a lot quicker. That's for certain. I guess we'll have to wait and see how that finally plays out in the House again. The Senate seems to be established. That seems to be firm at this point.
Yeah, and right now it looks like, there's quite a few seats up. Out of the seats that are still up, there's maybe 4 that the Democrats leading right now. But you still have, got Michigan's probably one of the big ones. Arizona, obviously, is going to be one of the big ones. So as that continues to move along, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a couple weeks before we even know exactly who has control there. Yeah,
it is quite amazing it takes so long to get these votes finally counted. I think there's some frustration on the electorate's part about how these things drag out for days now. But ultimately, you want to get it right. So the ability to control both houses will be very, very significant. There's no question about that. With the Republicans having the Senate, that will help them as far as nominations, presidential nominations, and that type of thing, because of their approval of those nominations. So we'll see where it goes. I think the interesting thing, part of this, as far as the race was concerned, it was one of the few times where you see candidates coming out of administrations that have been in effect, so to speak. I mean, Trump had his 4 years, and Kamala Harris was part of the Biden administration with their 4 years. So there was something of a track record there to look at and say, well, I've seen this and I've seen that. I can make a determination to some extent because of that. Many times you don't have that. You have first-time sort of wannabes, if you will, that are running for office, and you're not really clear what you may end up with. So I think there was a little bit better feeling about what was likely to occur, whichever way you decided to vote, because of history.
I'm looking forward to what's setting up in 4 years. Right now, it looks like we're more than likely going to see Josh Shapiro against J.D. Vance. And I think that's going to be a historical election in itself all on its own.
Well, it will be. I mean, Shapiro, of course, he hasn't been in office as governor all that long yet.
Right. He's been a front runner, though. I mean, he's been mentioned a lot, and he's probably him, and I think there's 3 other governors that they've talked about as possible front runners.
Well, Shapiro presents himself very well. There's no question about that, and he did well in the race for governor. So he would be a strong candidate. There's no 2 ways about it. 4 years is still a ways down the road. A lot of things happen over 4 years for sure,
Right.
and for various reasons. And I guess we'll see that play out.
We're visiting this morning with Dennis Nichols. He's former Beaver County Commissioner, talking about the election. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have more right after this.
Beaver County Radio, your hometown radio station. You're listening live from the Fried Transportation Studios. Beaver County Radio and Fried Transportation. Proud to call Beaver County home.
Lincoln Park Performing Arts Center in Midland presents Oliver Jr. November 15th through the 24th. This 60-minute junior adaptation of the Dickens classic is a perfect outing for the whole family. Tickets start at just $18. Visit LincolnParkArts.org.
Do you remember Thanksgiving and Christmas, how scrumptious your turkey from Jones Turkey Farm was? Why not get one now? They've got chickens and turkeys for $2.50 a pound. Turkey breast just $3.50 a pound. Get it fresh or get it frozen. Just get it. They're all natural, free-roaming, preservative-free, and handled with extreme care. Order now on their fantastic website store, jonesturkeyfarm.com, or call 352-2450 for the tastiest turkey in Western Pennsylvania. It's the Jones Turkey Farm in Cabot. Quite simply, the best.
If you own a company or a small business, you might have considered advertising on radio. It's smart because radio is still the most far-reaching media outlet today. WBVP and WMBA can get you results. Get more information at beavercountyradio.com.
Weekday mornings were meant to drive in the fast lane. It's Frank Sparks on Beaver County Radio.
It's 8:51. We've got about 9 minutes till top of the hour, talking this morning with former Beaver County Commissioner Dennis Nichols, and talking about the election and what occurred. So on a national level, on a local level, any surprises there? I mean, we had Roman Kozak versus Dr. Kenya Johns. We had Josh Kell versus Ashley Call. And then we had Rob Matsey and his name escapes me. Progis, I think is his last name. But that was probably the closest race of the two, of the three right there. And I was kind of shocked it was that close.
I'm not sure I was really shocked in a way, only because of the way the national race turned out, and with the strong Republican turnout here, votes for Republicans. In those other races, it was about almost 2-1 approximately as far as the voting goes. And with Beaver County now being registered more Republican than Democrat, although that's not a huge difference, but it is stronger that way. And with the results of the national level, you always see a certain amount of poll-along votes that are going to go with the down-ballot candidates, so to speak, when the national ticket is involved. So I'm not sure I was totally surprised with that. Rob Massey's been in office for a long time now, and he's been a strong candidate for many, many years. So I'm not surprised that it ended up going Rob's way. It was probably closer than maybe some people thought, but then again, you have that effect of the Republican turnout, generally speaking, and the national vote that would pull along into those other races. So I can't say as I was really surprised by what happened. It was probably pretty typical of what you might have expected. But, Rob had a challenge, maybe a little bit more of a challenge than he's had in recent years, yes.
And you saw that the Republican Party put a lot of money behind Rob's opponent, too. So you saw a lot of commercials out there and things that in the past you might not necessarily saw. Rob as well put a lot of money into this election. In my 10 years here, I can't remember how much, ever Rob ran as much advertising with us as what he did. So I think he knew. And do you think maybe now people are more looking at the guys that have been there for a while? They want to see new faces, and that could weigh into it as well?
I'm not so sure that I would characterize it quite that way. I see it more the impact of the national and the party involvement as much as trying to maybe turn somebody over just for the sake of turning them over.
Right.
So you see various races, even across the country, that go that way. A lot of these races were pretty close, where you had incumbents. And so I think the money that's being spent because of the close division, even in the House and the Senate in Pennsylvania, that's why you see so much money being funneled into some of these races, trying to control the legislature in Pennsylvania, which is obviously important to all of us. But there's an awful lot of money being spent anymore that you didn't used to see in local races, that's for sure.
Yeah. So U.S. Congress-wise, Chris DeLuzio, Rob McCurry. Rob won big here in Beaver County, but in the end, Chris DeLuzio came out with the victory on that end. Allegheny County, what put him over?
Oh, there's no question about that. The way that district is drawn up, it is pretty strongly Democrat as far as registration is concerned. Mm-hmm. So I think Rob McCurry had an uphill battle. No, there's no question about it. In the race before, Jeremy Schaefer was the same kind of situation.
Right.
Won Beaver County, but lost in the district because of the influence of Allegheny County. So the registration there and the way the district lines are drawn right now, that tends to there's some natural favor to the Democrats in that area, and you're going to see that in different places for sure.
Was there anything here locally in the local elections, like statewide, state rep, houses and stuff like that? Anything surprising you in this election?
Again, I can't say I was really surprised a lot by it. I'm glad to see the participation, though, the amount of people that turned out and voted and expressed their point of view. I would hope on the national level and really elections in general that the electorate make sure or try to be as astute as they can be about issues. I would like to see, from a political point of view, let's get away less from attacking personalities and that type of thing. I think there's a lot of sort of nastiness or vitriol, however you want to say it, that we see in these elections anymore that I don't think is positive. I like to see us talk more about specific issues, particular programs, and go back and look at the candidates a little bit harder about whether they're Republican or Democrat. Who are the people that are running for office? What are their backgrounds? What are their qualifications? What are their experiences that they're going to be able to bring to bear to do the actual work that you're going to do? I sometimes think that in elections these days, so much of it is just sort of personality-wise or how I'm feeling at the moment or that type of thing. Let's take a good hard look at who's running for office and what makes them qualified to do the job in the office that they're working for and stick with the issues a little bit more. I personally would feel a lot better about that.
One of the big topics, election security. We had a big issue here in Beaver County where a big group of people decided they were going to go to commissioner's work session. They wanted all the ballots hand counted. Do you think? I think we're very secure here in Beaver County. I like the way we do it. I like the quickness that our results were out. What's your thoughts?
No, I feel very confident about what we do in Beaver County. I think the Elections Bureau Director, Colin Sisk, has done a good job. I think we've done that for quite some time. It might be a little bit easier when you're in a county that has about 160,000 population versus a larger county like Allegheny or Philadelphia. But I thought that this election was better monitored that way. I think with particularly the mail-in ballots and some things that have been done to make sure that there was nothing improper being done there has gone a long way to make people feel better about that. And then with the early voting, too. So I think that was helpful. You haven't heard as much about concern with election security. There has been some, but not as much as you heard about the last time. And I think the way we went about this election, people are feeling better about that. And we should continue to work on that for sure.
Dennis, I appreciate you coming and talking with us this morning. So tell us a little bit, you're up to a couple things you told us about before when we got started this morning. Tell us a little bit more and if people would like to be involved and how they can get involved.
Sure. Again, with the Beaver County Foundation, the tagline for the organization is Your Legacy, Benefiting Others. And what that is all about is that if you're somebody that has a cause, whatever that might be, that's going to benefit people in Beaver County, you can set up a charitable fund, and that fund can be monitored and administered and so forth without you having to be personally involved, either you or your family, on an ongoing basis. And so whether it's a group or an individual, if you want to do charitable work and provide funds for that type of giving, get in touch with the Beaver County Foundation, and it's just beavercountyfoundation.com. And as I said before, also the Dolly Parton Imagination Library is a wonderful, wonderful program where children from birth through age 4 can get a book a month for no cost to them. And there's no other qualifications, got nothing to do with income or where you live or anything else. If you have a child in Beaver County and want to participate in that program, get involved and just go to imaginationlibrary.com, and there's a tremendous amount of information there. You just click on the Beaver County area and you can see what to do after that. But we'd like to seek donations for that too, whether it's corporate, nonprofit, whatever. Mm-hmm. The more funding we can get, the more children we can help. And our goal would be, if we ever could get every child in Beaver County a free book a month, that's what our goal would be. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about that.
Well, I appreciate you coming in this morning and giving us your insight on the election.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed it.
We have to talk again soon.
You bet.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Coming up next, Larry Kelly's in the house, and he'll be with Mike Romai, who is in for Eddie Crow today here on Beaver County Radio.
You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.